Hello. The Divine Code reading for August 17th, pages 141 and 142. Now, because of the way the text works, I'm also going to include 143 with today's reading. Yesterday's reading went into the descent that occurred with humanity from the third generation after Adam and even through the flood, the descent that occurred into idolatry, a lack of awareness of God, and people serving nature or serving the natural creation. And today in topic 6, we'll be discussing the ascent, the reawakening of awareness of God, and the ascent out of idolatry that occurred with Abraham, and then Abraham shared it with the world. And this can be understood for our sake. It's more than just a history lesson. We understand it as the dynamics that can cause oneself difficulty, luring a person into idolatry, and then the way to come out of idolatry. We look at this historical lesson. It gives a parable for our own lives of how to come out and reawaken ourselves to God. Halakha number 6. After this, that was the last, the last topic was dealing with the descent into idolatry. Topic number 6 will be Abraham. After this, mighty man was weaned. He began to explore and think. Though he was a child, he began to think incessantly throughout the day and night, wondering, how is it possible for the celestial firmament to continue to revolve without having anyone controlling it? Who causes it to revolve? Surely it does not cause itself to revolve. So this was the celestial firmament refers to the stars and the planets. That's the controlling the mechanism that brings providence into this world. And people in those days could look up at the stars and the planets, and they could actually see the mechanism operating. Today we can't see that, but then they could. And so Abraham looked up at this mechanism and thought to himself, there's got to be a controlling hand behind all this. He had no teacher, nor was there anyone to inform him. Rather, he was mired in Kasdim among the foolish idolaters. His father, mother, and all people around him were idol worshippers, and he would worship with them. However, in his heart was exploring and gaining understanding. Ultimately, he appreciated the way of truth and understood the path of righteousness. Through his accurate comprehension, he realized that there was one God who controlled the celestial sphere, who created everything, and there was no other God among all the other entities. He knew that the entire world was making a mistake in worshiping creations. What caused them to err was their service of the stars and images. which made them lose awareness of truth. So as the people were serving these idols, their minds were bent towards seeing the idols as being what is. And they were unable, these people were unable to see beyond the idol to realize that there was a God above them. Abraham was thinking about all this and realizing it. Abraham was 40 years old when he became fully aware of the Creator. This came in stages. There's other people that would say he was much younger. But at 40 years old, he came to the stage where he was fully aware of what was going on. When he recognized and knew him, knew God, he began to formulate the replies to the inhabitants of Ur Kasdim and debate with them, telling them that they were not following a correct path. He broke their idols and began to teach the people that it was fitting to serve only the God of the universe. And to him alone it is fitting to bow down, sacrifice, and offer libations. So the people of future generations would learn to recognize him, recognize God. Conversely, he realized that it is fitting to destroy and break all idolatrous items, images. These people err and think that there is no God, that there is no one God, but rather only these images. So in the course, he realized he should just destroy the idols, because the idols themselves were just these sticks and stone. They're just manufactured things that people thought that through these manufactured things they could control the stars and the planets. Abraham said, "This is foolishness. You can't." And a stone thing cannot control a planet. So he smashed a stone thing and showed people the planet still did what they did. When he overcame them through the strength of his arguments, the king, Nimrod, desired to kill him. But he was saved through a miracle, and he left for Haran. In the commentary, after Abraham argued with Nimrod regarding idol worship, Nimrod said, "I serve the fire as my God. I will throw you into the furnace, and your God that you bow down to, let him come and save you from the fire." Abraham was then thrown into the furnace, and miraculously he came out alive and unharmed. That's in Midrash on Bereshit Rabbah, and the Midrash chapter 38:13. So the question was, who was in charge? Nimrod logically understood, well, the fire was in charge. And Abraham was claiming that there was power, that the power of the one God was above the fire. So Nimrod said, well, if that's so, then I can put you in the fire and you can be helped. And if you're not helped, then obviously the fire is more powerful. Abraham was saved, proof that Abraham's one God was above the fire. Nimrod's God was the fire. But Abraham still had to leave because it wasn't a safe situation for him to stay there. The king tries to kill you once. Well, okay, a person should not rely upon miracles for the day-to-day life. So Abraham was saved once, but then had to leave because he has to think it's more important to rely upon proper living rather than to rely upon miracles for one's day-to-day existence. Okay, he left for Haran. There he began to call out in a loud voice to all the people and inform them that there was one God in the entire world, and it was proper to serve only him, that the one God. He would go out and call to the people, gathering them in city after city and country after country. Abraham traveled from Haran, where he was instructed by God, Genesis 12, and this was one of his tests. He left his wife Sarah and her brother Lot and all the souls they made in Haran, meaning the great number of people whose souls they had uplifted to righteousness by teaching them to abandon idolatry and to accept the one God and his 7 Noahide commandments. He would go out and call to the people, gathering them cities after city and country after country until he finally arrived at the land of Canaan, proclaiming God's true existence the entire time, as it states, and there he proclaimed the name of God, God of the universe. It can alternatively be understood that not only did Abraham call in the name of the Lord, but also he also motivated others to do so as well. Tractate Sota 10a explains that Abraham pitched his tent in the desert, like an inn, and took in the people who passed by and fed them royally. After the guests enjoyed a satisfying meal, Abraham insisted that they thank God for the food instead of thanking him. And this is also discussed in the chapter in the Divine Code on prayer. And, that section, topic, chapter 6, topic 6, and footnote 142 there. The structure of the Hebrew words used by Abraham to name God is significant. He pronounced the word that he pronounced to the world that God's name is Elohim, in which the word Kel is attached directly to the word Olam, universe, with no letters intervening. If Abraham had used the phrase Kel HaOlam, explicitly stretching God of the universe, it would have left the impression that the universe is a separate entity from God himself. Abraham's declaration of Kel Olam stresses that there is in fact no true separation between God and the universe. Rather, the universe is nothing more than an emanation of God's power, which is united with God himself in total unity. Therefore, when we bless God and he is King of the universe, as is explained in the chapter on prayer, we are praising his rulership over the physical realm, while bearing in mind the lesson from Abraham that intrinsically the universe and all its inhabitants are no more than an expression of God's creative power and his inner will. With this realization, the faithful person will naturally be motivated from love and all of the immanent, present essence of God to dedicate his entire life to his direct source of godliness by serving him and fulfilling his will. So see Likutei Sikot, volume 7 on Shemot. And this is published through Sikot in English. So this particular Sikot is available in English. So Abraham was explaining that the God, the universe, the name that is used for God is intrinsically connected to all of creation and is intrinsically connected to ourselves in such a way that we're an emanation of God. The entire world is an emanation of God in this manner, and therefore it's not like we should be doing our own thing. We are, every moment of our lives, we should be doing what God wants us to do, because we're just intrinsically connected, and it's completely irrational for us to do anything else. That was what Abraham was teaching through the use of this word, this name for God, that he was telling the people. When the people would gather around to ask him about his statements, he would explain to each individual according to that person's understanding until they turned to the path of truth. Ultimately, thousands and tens of thousands of people, thousands gathered around him. He planted in their hearts this great fundamental principle, and he composed text about it. And this parable, this history comes from the Rambam's Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, chapter 1, topics 1 and 3. Ultimately, tens of thousands and tens of thousands gathered around him, and he planted in their hearts this great fundamental principle. He also taught them the 7 Noahide commandments, which he and the members of his own household were careful to fulfill. But from this time of the passing of Abraham until the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, aside from the family and his grandson Jacob, we only find mention of righteous individuals rather than entire communities. It seems that for most of the thousands of peoples of the house of Abraham, whom he and his wife Sarah attracted, the couple's exceptional kindness was a temporary counterbalance to the attraction and temptation of general idolatrous culture. So here, during the time of Abraham, we know that there are multitudes of people that are learning. This did not set through the generations, except with Abraham's direct family. Now, there were some that continued on. I mean, even during the time of Isaac, during the time of Jacob, we don't hear of them going down into Egypt. We hear of the 70 souls that went down to Egypt from Jacob's family. We do hear of the multitudes coming out. That's people that attach themselves to the children of Jacob, to the children of Israel. There are non-Jews who attached themselves to that group when they came out of Egypt. So how the continuity worked, if every generation had to retell it to the world, or were there children of children that continued this understanding, that is not clearly explained in the history at this point. It seems that it was a temporary thing, and that each generation had to learn. That seems to be what it says, and that's what we're at today. That means we're not bound by our culture. We're not bound by our own history. We can choose to recognize God. That's open to everyone. That's just what is being explained in this story. Thank you.